Hello good people of YouTube and welcome to my channel. In this video I just wanted to do an update on the Bretonnian Giants or megagargants that I've been sculpting, seeing as they are quite big. I've done a previous video where these were displayed as a unit filler, but it's really my intention obviously to field them as giants in their own right. I have been working on some additional unit fillers, pack horses and supplies for my Bretonnian men at arms, and of course if I want to the giants can go in there as well. But I think if I'm gaming at home I'll probably be creating some house rules and taking them as mercenaries or allies, which has been suggested in the comments, and I think it's a great idea. So I just wanted to basically have a look at what I've done since the last video, and I think this giant is probably new. I don't think he'd been done in the last video. I was probably looking at the bits and pieces that I was going to use to construct him, and so here we have it basically. I'll try and pick this guy up. He's quite heavy and quite big. But this one is Baldwin the Pious. And I don't know if you can see there, I've done a Happy Meal for him, which is a medieval horse that's been tied up and strung to the belt. There is actually a magnet inside this, so it comes off and it can be swapped with the Happy Meal on the other giant. And this is a boar that I've sculpted, which corresponds in size more or less to the boars for the orc boar riders, orc boar boys. So it's about the same size. Style's a bit kind of looser and more free because it's hand sculpted. It's not done on a computer or anything. But I made sure I got the proportions right and try to make it look like what it's meant to be. So I can swap. I will be doing more of these, but I was conscious that I hadn't done a video for nearly a week now. So I will be doing other things that can be clipped to the giant's belt using magnets. But at the moment I've got a horse and a boar. And because I'm using magnets, it means I can swap them around. They fit either giant quite nicely, so I'm quite pleased with that. So I'll just take them off. I've also, since the last video, put a tiny slim magnet in Baldwin's bowl cut. That just needs a little bit of working over before I paint it, just to hide that that sort of bevel that's appeared. There's a little bit of shrinkage when the green stuff dries, so I will just smooth that out. But that clips on there now, so I can either have him with or without hair. So just give you a look at the detail on the giant. Most of the rope has been hand sculpted. I'll probably put a shield on the sort of wrapping around the wrist. There's a buckler shield and a human-sized breastplate there, used on the fingers to protect them. There's some old details from the previous resin giant that I used as a armature or a scaffold for this. So that was a giant that I sculpted, what, 15, 20 years ago. So we've got a dagger and a mallet, and then obviously trousers, hobnail boots and some bits and pieces on the base, which I've glued on to represent battlefield flotsam and jetsam. And a shield on the back and some stitching. And that is Baldwin the Pious, more or less ready for painting. And then of course I've also got these movement trays, which are Kings of War, I think, but they are roughly 100 by 150, which is I think, I don't know if it's the megagargant or the bone crusher or bone grinder, I can't remember what the names are, but the large giant that features in the I think it's the Orc and Goblins Arcane Journal, will fit on either a base that's 100 by 100 or 150 by 100. So I'm going to do those as well for Warhammer the Old World. But I'm also trying to keep these giants generic enough to use with my medieval historical armies, so that if I fancy a game of, never mind the bill hooks, I know there's a fantasy version of that kicking around somewhere that I'll have to get hold of, but if I want to introduce a fantasy element into historical war games, I can. It doesn't just have to be old world. So that was the first giant that I sculpted, featured in my previous video, where I talk at length about all the different elements I was using. All of this is my own work. The barrels I sculpted, and they're resin castings available from the Battle Forge. There's a chest there which I sculpted. There's a shield that I sculpted. They're in metal. There's a sack that I sculpted as well. The base comes from the Imperial Giant, as does the body, which was explained in my previous video. So please check that out if you haven't seen it. The head is resin. The hand and the arms and the weapon, they're all resin, and they're from previous sculpts that I did for giants that never got finished. So I'm making use of my old miniature sculpts and bits and pieces. So all of this is all my own work. There's no kit bashing on these. Same goes for this one. Same arms, but used in a different position. I've turned the club into a mallet made from a sawn off tree trunk on this second one. So I'll lift him up and try and give you a better look. Again, I've gone for some metal bits around the neck. I didn't bother smoothing them out too much because I wanted to introduce some elements of rust and weathering. So I wasn't too bothered that, you know, when you mix Miliput with green stuff and you roll it out and pull it, it can end up sort of cracking like that, but that worked to my advantage. The reason that looks a slightly weird colour is because I did actually mix a bit of brown stuff in as well. And brown stuff is a relative, if you like, product of green stuff. You may or may not have heard of it, but basically it's just like green stuff, but it's coloured brown and it dries firmer. There's less kind of plasticity in the finished putty. But I'm getting to the dregs of my own stock of green stuff and brown stuff, which I said in a previous video I've kept in the freezer. The stuff that I sculpted this giant out of, the green stuff that I used on this giant, is the best part of 10 or 15 years old, and I'm just using up the last bits. So I've given him a tin helmet with lots of rivets on, a strap round the resin head that I sculpted a while ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Detail on the arms. There's a bit to clean up on the skin, but I'll do that after I've made this video. Again, hand sculpted rope made from Green Stuff and Miliput. There's a barrel there, which again is a barrel that I sculpted for the Battle Forge. Same giant was used, another resin cast of the same body was used as an armature for this. but I chopped the boots off. So on here I covered the original boots with green stuff to make these hobnail boots. On this giant I used some feet that I'd sculpted, and these were cast in resin. So I chopped the boots off and just drilled them and pinned them to the legs of this giant here. And this base, this isn't the original base, this is a bit of perspex. This was used for a prototype model that ended up at one of the salutes. Can't remember which, 2006, 2008, I don't know, can't remember. An early salute anyway. One of the early ones that I went to, I mean. And again, barrels on the base. So this is all ready now for texturing and painting. So that's it really. Both giants, I'll try and get them in frame so you can see them. Spin that one round as well, so you can see how I've used the same arms and just position them differently to get two models that look quite different. I did chop a bit off the top of this arm to reposition it closer to the body, so it was going down more, whereas this other one comes across like that. So that's it really. I wanted to keep this video fairly short. I have got more videos that I want to do, but this was really just an update on the giants, on progress with the giants, and to give you guys a closer look at some of the detailing. Again, I've been sculpting giant sacks and things. All the stitching was done with a scalpel blade, just prodding that into the green stuff before it dried. And then I've done sort of scuff marks and scratch marks to keep it in line with some of my earlier sculpting. So, as I said, these guys are pretty much ready for painting, but I did want to just get them featured in a video before I zenithal prime them and turn them all grey and white. But I might actually manage to get one of these bad boys painted in the next week or two. So I'll just pop the Happy Meals back on. Right, where's that? That one's there. Okay, so there they are, carrying some captive animals with them. And as I said, I do intend to actually use these guys in an army of giants. They could be used with my Orc and Goblin, green skin, Orc and Goblin tribes as well. But I've got some different ideas for different conversions that I want to use there. So yeah, that's it really. As I said, I'm just keeping this short and sweet. I haven't had a great week really. Health-wise, it's not been good. And I've had other things to deal with, all of which have just stopped me functioning as a human being for a while. But not to worry, we all have stuff like that to deal with. And I've also, as I said, been working on some pack horses. I'll just pull this one out because it's dry. So this is a Wargames Atlantic horse. And again, I've featured these in previous videos. Now this has actually got the plastic saddle on it, and onto that I've attached various different bits of baggage. On this one it's hay. And the idea being that, you know, if I do field the giants separately, I can include other unit fillers in with my Bretonnian Men at Arms. Here I've just sculpted some tied up sort of bags and bundles. Again, that's on a horse from Wargames Atlantic. The saddle cloth is under there somewhere. And I haven't actually glued it at this stage. The putty is stuck to the plastic, but it will flick off. And I'll probably do that before I paint them, because I may magnetize the packs. Again, just to give me a bit of flexibility. Although these are mounted on GW style bases because they're non-combatant. In other war games, I'll just put them, I'll sink them into a scenic base with some of my other armies. So I'm trying to keep these generic as well. And if this stuff flicks off, then I could swap the packs, potentially use them in, you know, Second World War games. I could certainly use them in Napoleonics and Ancients, and I might get 1 or 2 packs where I've got things like spears and bows tied to the back of the horse, and other examples where I'll probably have ammunition and boxes of guns and things. So I'm looking for maximum flexibility when I do all this, and this sort of just illustrates the point. So the empty space there with the horses in, and the cart can be used to fill the gap left by the giant. If I don't use the giant as a unit filler, I'll just pull these out and put the giant in. Whoops. Because I know unit fillers like this aren't everybody's cup of tea. But for me, it was just an excuse to get a giant on the table. I think that looks all right myself, but as I said, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. And at the end of the day, it's only a game. So I'm just looking for maximum flexibility. And that's why I'm magnetizing bits and pieces and coming up with some alternatives. Let's just put this one in as well, so you can see this one in the same unit. This is where it gets tricky. Ooh. There we are. Trying to move this and hold the phone. So I will do another video with these guys when I've got them undercoated, zenithal primed. They'll all be one colour then, the detail will stand out quite nicely. The bases will probably have a bit more on them, so they will hopefully show off the detail a bit better. But I just wanted to do a quick video to show the progress so far. And again, as was suggested by someone in, I think one of the comments was Henri Le Massive or Massif or something, is apparently a giant from the meta or the fluff or something. I'm not really up to date on the Warhammer fluff, but that's potentially what this guy could be called. So we've got Baldwin the Pious and Henri Le Massive. I might even do a little damsel or priestess or prophetess or whatever she is sitting on his shoulder for when I field them with Bretonnians. So there's still a bit, you know, I can still have a bit of fun with these. But as I said earlier, I've tried to create 2 giants that I can also use in historical war games, where I'm using a historical army rather than a Warhammer army or an old world army. But yes, there we are. So here again, I've got some old Battleforge bits and pieces that I've sculpted, solid cart wheels, the old cart, but I've used a Wargames Atlantic horse to tie it in with everything else. And that's a potential unit filler. It could also be an objective marker. So again, barrels that I sculpted for the Battleforge, those are metal. Some extra bits and pieces that I've sculpted on there. pop those in there. And that one there with the hay. So I've got these guys to finish off here. These are a work in progress, but you can see how I build it up. There's the saddle on the back there, and I've just done some saddle bags either side, and I'll just add more baggage on top. And again here, I'll sculpt the yoke in and everything. But there's another metal cart from the Battle Forge with some metal crates that I sculpted, and I've put a few bags on top. So I'm making some pack horses and like a baggage train, which can either be used as a unit filler or can be used as a separate baggage train in its own right. And just to finish off with very quickly, these boxes are empty because I've been using them to create the second giant. But basically 3 of these boxes and 36 inches of green stuff, which is a roll like this, if I can open it, goes into one giant. So, but the Miliput is considerably cheaper, and in terms of proportions, I probably use about 60% Miliput, 40% green stuff, maybe even 80% Miliput and 20% green stuff. Where it's a darker green, I've used more green stuff, maybe 50-50, but where it's really pale like this, it's mostly Miliput with just enough green stuff to give it a green tint, which may not be showing up in this light very well. And several people have asked me where I get my green stuff from. Well, obviously I've had a supply in the freezer for the last decade that I've been using, but I used to get it from Sylmaster, and they have now split their business. So Sylmaster still exist, and that's where I got this from, but the website is Sylcreate.com, and these are the guys who actually supply the trade, and that's why I buy from them. So you can get green stuff from any reputable hobby store. You can get it from large miniature manufacturing companies. Might be different in the US, but in the UK, it's Sylmaster and Sylcreate that actually distribute to the trade. So if you go direct to their website, you can get either 36-inch roll or tape, ribbon tape. So I ordered 2 of these. I'll just pull this one out. I will actually do another video where I review this, but you can see that lovely and fresh. And one way you can tell it's fresh is by smelling it, because as it ages, it loses its smell. But when it's brand new, there's almost a gap there between the 2 ribbons. So I'll probably separate mine out for storage, and I'll be keeping this in the freezer and just bringing it out at, I normally cut mine into 6-inch strips, but in terms of using it, I'll probably only use 1 inch at a time. I just break a bit off. But anyway, before that starts to kind of, I don't know what the word is really, because essentially, although it's a putty, it is actually a liquid, just a very thick one, and over time it spreads, and as it spreads, the 2, the blue and the yellow will make contact and start to go off where they join. But when it's brand new and fresh, you can see there is just a really small gap. So I want to get this in the freezer before that actually does join and bond. But anyway, 36 inches, nice and fresh. The smell it has is something in between sort of cookie dough and brand new rubber plimsolls or deck shoes or Converse trainers, if you like. It's a very weird smell, but it's very distinctive. Not unpleasant, but not not pleasant either, but it's somewhere between rubber shoes and cookie dough, and that's how you know it's really fresh. But as I said, I keep mine in the freezer, and what I'll do is I will unwind the tape, and I'll leave it in the plastic that it comes in, and I will just cut it into the lengths that I know I'll be using it. So 6 inches, 4 inches, 2 inches, whatever. You can then put it back in there if you want and just put that in the freezer. I tend to store mine in a zip seal bag. So I'll cut it into strips. I'll lay the strips flat. I'll keep the cellophane or the polythene wrapper on it, and I'll lay them in a plastic bag, and I just put them into a normal, regular domestic freezer. It can be the freezer in the top of the fridge, the little quick freeze thing in the top of the fridge, or it can be a chest freezer or an upright freezer that that holds more. But yeah, there we are, www.sylcreate.com. So you can see I'm getting tired because my hands are shaking now. There we've got work time 1.5 to 2 hours at 24 degrees. Initial cure 4 to 5 hours, final cure within 20 to 24 hours. Now I find that if you mix it with Miliput, your working time probably drops to about half an hour, maybe an hour at a push. But I do different things at different times. So when I first mixed it, that's when I start sculpting anything that I want to smooth out, get the detail on, anything that's really small and fiddly, that needs kind of pushing around, because when you've mixed it with Miliput, it's quite soft. And then as it starts to go harder and more difficult to work, then you can start rolling it out and turning it into I just press it down with a ruler against a piece of polythene and then cut it to make these kind of bits of fabric, or the kind of flag shapes that I've got going on there. There's one there. There's also one there. So this was as it was reaching the end of its working life. You just squeeze it flat. Make sure that the polythene you put it on and the ruler that you're using are damp so they don't stick. You just wipe them with a bit of water or lick them or whatever, as long as they're clean. I'm not recommending that you do anything that might end up making you ill. But yeah, as the green stuff and the Miliput start to cure, you can then do things like the rope as well. So rolling out the rope, if your mix is fresh, you won't have any joy with that at all. You won't be able to get a nice sort of thin bit of rolled out Miliput that you can then fold it and twist two pieces together, and that's basically how I did that. At the point where it's starting to get a little bit too hard to shape with your sculpting tools, it's still a bit tacky, so it hasn't gone off completely, but you can just roll it out and twist two bits together and create rope like that. So yeah, I will be doing more videos on green stuff, but this has just arrived this week. I put an order in this week. It came really quickly, so I've just ordered a couple of 36-inch rolls of tape, and I've also ordered 2 sticks of green stuff where the blue and the yellow are supplied separately. I've only used this once before, and I know some people don't like it because it's in a lump. It can be more difficult to kind of heat up and work with, but it's exactly the same stuff. So this is the stick, and that's the ribbon there. So I ordered these direct from the Sylcreate website. As I said, in the UK, these guys supply all the other retail outlets. And okay, you might be thinking, I don't need 36 inches, but you can freeze it and it'll last a decade. So I think this probably was around the £15 mark, between 13 and 15 pounds. I can't remember off the top of my head because they were both priced slightly differently. But I have seen green stuff 36 inches of green stuff on sale in on the on the internet and in various hobby stores, where it's like 17 or 18 pounds for a 36 inch roll like that. So I hope that answers people's questions. But yeah, I get mine from Sylcreate, and I will be doing a review of this in a separate video. I will be doing some sculpting videos as well at some point. But I just wanted to get these two giants finished and ready for painting. I'm also conscious that this is video number 26. I've only been doing this about 5 or 6 weeks now, I think. It does feel like longer, but I haven't actually put any paint on anything yet. And I'm also running out of Miliput. So as I said, these are empty. I get these from my local hobby store. I used to get it from Sylmaster. I don't know if they still do it. I didn't bother checking because I didn't think I needed any at the time. And then of course, by the time I'd finished this guy here, I've only got one box left. So yeah. That's where I'm up to with my Bretonnian Giants and my unit fillers. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've enjoyed seeing these two fellows. I know they've created quite a stir on some of the groups that I've posted them on Facebook and so on. Some people love them, some people hate them. Like I said, it's just a game and I'm just having fun. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. I will probably, when it comes to doing my next giant, which I could do for a different faction, a different army, I might even try and do a step-by-step and show you the various stages that I go through from turning an armature, or in this case two old bodies that were miscast from the Imperial Giant that I sculpted for the Battle Forge. I'll probably do a step-by-step, just show you how I apply the detail, the extra bits of green stuff that get rolled out and placed on there and turned into something new. So yeah, sorry this isn't more kind of in-depth and frothy, but I'm feeling a bit under the weather. So I hope you found it useful nevertheless. And I hope you've enjoyed this look at the giants that I've created. If you have, please smash that like button. It does make a difference. It does help me grow the channel and reach more people, and it does help the YouTube algorithms validate me as a worthy human being. So please smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do. I've got lots of other stuff that I'll be covering, including historical wargaming. It's not all the old world. I do have some 40k stuff as well that I'm into, and some models that I want to kit bash and convert and show off there. Lots of stuff planned for the coming months. My health allowing, and yeah, I'll probably try and sculpt a Bretonnian warhorse, because this guy is actually in scale with some of the 25-28mm. He actually matches pretty well to a Claymore casting medieval knight's horse, or a Victrix one. So I kept the scale of this one down to something that would work with historical miniatures. I might actually get a Bretonnian warhorse sculpted, and as I said, this guy here was scaled to match the orc boar boys, plastic orc that you get in the old world boar boys box. But that's it. Thanks very much for sticking with me, for listening to the waffle. I hope you've enjoyed all the little bits and pieces that I've shown you. In terms of the work that went into these giants and why it's taken so long, I think this guy's taken about 4 days to make, and it was about the same for this guy as well. So you know, they've been a labour of love, and that's sort of kept me away from YouTube a bit as well. But yes, thanks again. As I said, if you like the videos, if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, please smash that like button, please subscribe, please tell your friends, and share the love. Thanks again, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.